So this is for the estranged moms. For you that feels lost, you probably did a search for other estranged mothers, looking for others that can identify and recognize the pain that you're feeling. We have this amazing bond with our children when they're in the womb, when they're infants, toddlers, growing up into their teen years. And then obviously, things are different. We all know about the terrible teens. In this generation, it's much worse. This is why we have an epidemic of parental estrangement. What I want to say to you, the estranged parents, mothers, it's automatic when we love our children. We want to make sure that their well being is actually well. I have said it 1,000 times and I'll say it again. It, no man, no one would get a second, third, fourth chance. I'm not going to even go that far at the first sign of disrespect. But when it comes to our children, our mercy and our love is boundless, knows no bounds. The unfortunate truth, though, is that there has to be boundaries. This doesn't mean we stop loving them and we stop being merciful. I know the pull because I've been there more times than I can count. You can even ask the FBI. Yes, I've gone as high as the FBI to make sure that my children's well-being is actually well, and I've had valid reasons as to why I've had those concerns. And I still have concerns as a mother. We never stop being a mother, and unfortunately, not on our side, but when our young adult children, teens, willfully disobey us, it's unfortunate for them to recognize the fact during this time that we are their parent, we are their mother, we love them, and forgive them more times than we can count because we don't count. But you see, they put these restrictions and these boundaries on us. So while we're reaching out in love and we're checking on their well-being, we get into mama bear mode because I have been there many times. We see who they're around, that they're not good for them. And of course, when they're 18 plus, we're told that we have to stop being a parent, right? We can't interfere. No, like if we see our child with the wrong person and there's danger, I know for myself with daughters, they're with the wrong guy and that person is going to harm them. They could be 40 years old. I'm still going to find some way to get through and to intervene for their safety. And we're told it's so wrong. The problems for me, and a lot of mothers can identify, started when I had my children, when they first experienced the public school system. That's a whole nother topic. Because the public school system it will undo the work that we do in our own homes. This is the values, the morals, the integrity. When they get in the public school system, the confusion begins, anything goes, the lack of oversight and protection, saying that our children at 13, 14 years old are adults already. No, they're not. Heaping amounts of responsibility on the backs of young backs, and even literally with the tons of work that they have put on our children. I remember my children coming home with heavy book bags. I was like, no, roll a cart. Like you're gonna hurt and damage your back before you even reach full maturity. What's gonna happen as a result of that? Of course, higher anxiety and depression and all these things that are happening. My children never had any of those issues, never had any of these concerns and worries and perplexities, in life until they entered public school system. And that's a whole nother story that I'm going to share at another time, and I'll go more deep in that. But I want you to know, and I want you to understand that I understand and I feel the pain. And when we start reaching out to them when they're old enough and we're supposed to step back, and the instinct in us, which is innate in us, the mother instinct and the pull to be a mother, is to reach out and love and care, is met with disdain. It's met with fight. It's met with you're harassing me, you're stalking me. It is such a weird twisting of facts. Wow. How does a loving mother actually stalk their own child or harass their own child? Again, key word, a loving mother. How are they stalking and harassing? The two, it's double negative. Those that have not experienced parental estrangement, you're not going to get this. You can reach out to your son or daughter in love. You can check on them. You can say, hey, listen, I've called you 3 times. Where are you? It's been a number of hours. If you don't pick up the phone, I'm going to send somebody over. And you're not going to be met with resistance like you're stalking me, you're harassing me. But estranged parents are met with that type of resistance. That narrative gets spun. This doesn't mean we stop caring and loving our children. Let them have their boundaries and let us have our boundaries for our emotional health and well being above all. Their boundaries are in place as a result of rebellion. And I emphasize it's the result of rebellion when they're doing this to the loving parent or parents. I am not talking about those that are children that are raised in dysfunction and they have a reason to separate from their parent or parents. The boundaries in place are not as a result of rebellion or creating a false narrative. It is based on the reality that they did not receive that proper love and nurturing, right? I'm specifically emphasizing those of us, myself included, who love our children and are met with this type of resistance, this type of rebellion. We keep our boundaries in place to protect our health and our well being because it is traumatizing, it is painful, it makes us sick, it hurts us to reach out in love. And it's nothing new from what we've done when we've had our children before they became young adults or teens that somehow just leave the home. We've been that way from the time they were in the womb. So it's a definite huge, not even a transition because it's an abnormal reality. Empty nest syndrome is tough enough in and of itself. It's tough enough when it's the natural course of parenting. We know that our children grow up, create their own lives, and move on, and we have a different form of relationship with them. It is 10 times worse when our children are ripped from the nest based on lies, betrayal, the toxic influence by therapists, psychologists, counselors, and people in the school system that are interfering with the work of properly rearing our children at home to be the best version that they can be and to be prepared for this world. So again, yes, it's easy to want to reach out there. But remember, again, and many have experienced this, we get threatened with restraining orders. You're harassing me, you're stalking me. And honestly, it just fuels their false narrative that we're the bad parent. And then you have people rallying like, wow, they don't respect your boundaries. See, look. And those of you that don't know, it's really wise not to get involved in other people's business that you don't know the full story to the other side. Also, it's important to recognize when you're projecting your own poor upbringing, your own traumas onto someone else's situation and trying to mesh it, your true reality of perhaps not having the proper love at home and trying to mesh it with the false reality, false narrative of a teen, young adult who decides to be rebellious towards their loving parent or parents. There is a trigger, and it's not abuse. Every mother that has experienced a parent can identify a trigger. For some, it's when you first tell your child no and you take things away, requiring them to be responsible, to teach them a form of independence. Others, it's when a girl comes into a picture or a boy comes into the picture and we say that relationship's not good and the problems begin tenfold. It could be all of the above and more. So before you automatically cite that child having a reason to cut off contact with the parent as the parent must be abusive, it must be true, why would they do that? Now you have other probable causes, which is rooted in facts as to why they would. And how it's very painful for the parent to hear people just go with a false narrative without really looking into it. And like I said, that deals with a lot of people that love drama. They're projecting their own issues into the situation, and they're not investigating both sides properly. So avoid becoming the false narrative that your child or children are creating by attempting to break through their rebellion, reaching out in love, asking if they're okay, when you can see them, when you can meet with them, so they don't have any fuel to attack you with. That's the takeaway here. You know that you love them. They know the truth. And God has a funny way of working things out in His time. Yes, it's not our timeline, but it's His time, and it will be worked out.